Hey, what's up, everybody? You are watching On the Town with Tanya. Thank you for coming back again this week. We appreciate you. This week's guest is editor-in-chief and co-owner, of Black Westchester Magazine. He is the host and producer of People Before Politics radio show and an author who just penned another book, Black Women of Westchester. Did I say that correctly? Hopefully, let's see. Yes. Okay. And he is a third of the legendary underground rap group JVC Force. Please welcome the one and only AJ Woodson. Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm gonna take my hat off because of the shadow, but I just had to give love to my New York Knicks. Who, first. So now
they won.
They won. They're in the Eastern Conference semifinals.
Okay.
But they just won a grueling battle with Philly and the 76ers, and they beat them.
Okay.
There's a lot. As a lifelong Knicks fan, there's been a lot of heartbreak, and every time now that we got something good to celebrate, it's just good to, I represent either way, but okay. Yeah.
Nice. So you penned this book. What led you to the book first, I would say?
Okay, so I just shared it to my Facebook page. So okay. I got 3 books out. The first book was Black Westchester, the origin story. I watched too many superhero movies. All the Avengers have their own origin story. So it tells you the story, and it leads into the second story. We're on our 10-year anniversary, and I came back from Atlanta back to New York in 2014 because my mother had stage 4 cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I came to take care of her, and this was built in during that time, Black Westchester. So I say that to say, going into my second book, one of the things my mother always told me was, give me my flowers while I'm alive. So that is the theme of this book. So there's been a lot of, it's been like the year of the woman every year, the last 5-10 years. You know what I mean? Like the first woman to do this, first Black woman to do this, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. So, being that we do the newspaper and the website, Black Westchester, documenting Black people in Westchester, I was going to do just a book for Black history.
Okay.
Men and women. We cover all these people when it happened. So I was going to take all that stuff, add some to it, and just put out a book for Black History Month. What ended up happening is, as I was going through the details, looking up some of the women, it was harder and harder to find the achievement of Black women. It was easier to find the achievement of Black men. The further back you go, so it made me want to dig more into Black women. And this ended up being, of course, the first Black woman I celebrated is my mother. And then I go into this, celebrating all the first in my city, Mount Vernon. My mayor, Sean Patterson Howard, is the first Black female mayor of Mount Vernon.
Yes.
And then there's several others. Vivian McKenzie, the first Black female mayor of Peekskill. And, on and on and on. And so the first part of this is the cover of the book too.
Yes, it's Black Westchester. Wow, nice.
Black Westchester celebrates Black women in Westchester. Secondly, keeping it in the family, I want to big up my daughter, Paula Sherelle Woodson, who has done the book covers for all my books. Nice. And she came up with this beautiful idea. I just gave her pictures. And she put them in the W's, Westchester Women.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, so I wanted to definitely shout her out, definitely doing her thing. So I did the book in parts. So like I said, we're coming on our 10-year anniversary. Okay. So the first part 1 is her story, giving Black women their flowers while they're alive. Andrea Stewart Cousins is our first Black woman to lead a state, the state senate. So before she was elected, before she got that position, there used to be the saying, 3 men in a room: the governor, the Senate majority leader, and the speaker of the assembly. She forever broke that. That can never be called 3 men in a room anymore. And because now she's in the room, and now we also have a female governor too. So now it's 2 women in the room. But that was a saying for years, 3 men in a room. So she broke that. Like I said, Sean Patterson Howard, my mayor, Mary Ann Carr. It was just various women.
She was in my town, in Bedford, up in Bedford.
Yes. She was the first town supervisor of Bedford.
Yes, that's not my town. Yes.
Right.
She's lovely. I love her.
And then it was just several other women, you know, they were the first Black woman to do this, the first Black woman to do that. So that's what the first part is. Most of these are stories I covered in the last 10 years.
Okay.
The second part is part 2, celebrating Black women who paved the way. Dr. Olivia Hooker. She was actually she passed. She was actually one of the last survivors of the Tulsa massacre. And you know, she lived in Westchester. She was the first Black woman in the Coast Guards, and she had a history of other firsts. So she's the first one I celebrate. Celebrate the Westchester Black Women's Political Caucus. Pearl Qualls, another. She just passed, and I'm so happy. When I wrote the book, one of her people were there and brought a book and had me autograph it for her.
Nice.
And 6 months before she passed, she's holding up my book. She thanked me for the words that I said. So I literally got to give her her flowers while she's alive. You know, everyone else, you know, then she had this big funeral and everybody had all these wonderful things to say, but she was able to read what I wrote about her before she passed. You know what I'm saying? So I'm real proud of that. And a bunch of other women who paved the way, the first black female cop in Westchester. The Cynthia Hood is the first Black woman to make detective sergeant or something in the White Plains Police Department. You know, and it just goes on and on. All these women who paved the way. Part 3 is celebrating Black women of distinction in Westchester. Now, they might not necessarily have been first,
right?
But they were just worthy of being celebrated. And the first person I pay tribute to is Ruby D.
Oh, yes. Ruby D. Mount Vernon, right?
She lived in New Rochelle, yeah.
Yeah, I know she was in there.
Yeah, so what I learned from her, she had done all these great things. Her and her husband walked with Malcolm. Her husband actually did Malcolm's eulogy. They walked with Martin Luther King. You know, I think they were actually on the podium and everything, you know, when he spoke in that big speech in Washington. They've all these civil rights stuff. Yes. Her husband passed, and she still goes on. 2011, we had a situation where a Black male, Kenneth Chamberlain, falls asleep. He hits his medical pendant, his life alert pendant, and doesn't answer when life alert calls him, so they send the police. He finally answers them, said they don't need him. The cops still were determined to break in. You know, anyway, 90 minutes later after they arrive, he dies. He gets killed. Ruby D was the only and the first civil rights leader who started demanding justice for Kenneth Chamberlain. She stood with Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., gave him courage to continue to go on. And the reason I celebrate this, we all know what she's done on stage and the big screen, the TV screen. And that's what she always celebrates. But I wanted to celebrate the activist Ruby D. And the lesson I learned is, as much as she did, she could have sat on her laurels her last few years. Like, I did this, I'm done. Like, you know, just sat back. But she put it on the line, and she still represented and used her celebrity and her position to fight for justice for Kenneth Chamberlain to the end. So no matter how much you've done, there's always more to do. So shout out. So I celebrate her. Sandra Blackwell, she's the Westchester County Press.
Right.
And then several others, just women of distinction.
So what about?
Go ahead. What about?
No, I was trying to think. There's someone else. I wish I would have known. I would have had you put my mom in there, my forever mom in there. She was the first Black minister ordained in Westchester County in 1971. I want to say.
What's her name?
Reverend Marie. Well, she's Reverend Marie J. Dorsey now, when she passed, but she was Williams, and then she got married to my dad.
Well, there's definitely going to need to be a part 2 of this because either so many people have continued making history since the book came out, like New Rochelle has the first Black Afro-Latina mayor. Yadira Ramos Herbert, but she got elected after the book was already out.
Excuse me.
And then, there's been a bunch of other firsts since the book been out. So, there'll be a part 2.
Yes.
And part 4, I actually do a timeline of Black women in Westchester going back to 1828.
Wow.
When what's her name? Sojourner Truth.
Okay.
Lived in Briarcliff Manor.
Wow.
She became the first African American woman to win a lawsuit against a white man. I think
What?
it had to do with freedom for her son or something, who was still a slave.
Sojourner Truth. Because I wondered how she got her name. That was her real name. Her parents' name for that.
But I don't know if there was a name before that, or that's what it is. But that's her name. 1864. Amanda Foster co-founded the Foster AME Zion Church in Tarrytown, the oldest Black church in Westchester.
Nice.
Patrice Jackson Conway becomes the first Black girl to graduate Washington Irving High School in Tarrytown, and on and on and on. And I wanted to celebrate all our leaders. I have this in the first part. I have a young lady. I never pronounce her name right. Where's she at? She page 85. She was the first I want to get it right. She was the first. She became the first female student of color in the Mount Vernon School District. Documented history to be accepted with a full ride to Harvard. And she didn't just get a full ride to Harvard. She was valedictorian in her high school. And she was offered full scholarships from all of the Ivy League schools.
Good for her.
She decided to go to Harvard. Wow. But she was offered, and I thought this was impressive, and I wanted to celebrate her as well. But yeah, she got awarded full scholarships to Johns Hopkins, Duke, the University of Notre Dame, Bowdoin College, Amherst College, and another one. And then she received partial scholarships from several universities, including Fordham, Northeastern, and Binghamton. And she ended up going to Harvard. And I wanted to celebrate her because she's a future, she represents current Black girl magic. So, I wanted to celebrate Black girl magic. And the book has been great. It's like my Christmas song. Let me explain. And people like what I mean by that. The Jackson 5 Christmas song or Mariah Carey Christmas, you play it every year at Christmas.
Yes.
Well, so far since the book has been out, every Black History Month and in March for Women's History Month, I'm asked to speak and come through with my book. So it's something that goes on every year. Several libraries. I'm speaking next month. I'm speaking to the League of Women Voters in the River Towns about the book. I'm spoken at several libraries, and several libraries are ordering the books. I'm trying to get it into the schools and to the colleges so that kids, the other part of this book is I want young girls, especially our young sisters.
Yes.
Who sometimes representation is everything. So I want them to be something that they can see, women who look like them, who have accomplished all these great things, knowing that they can do anything. And to our young brothers to see our Black women celebrated, that, you know what I'm saying? They're not just what they get called in rap songs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So a respect for our sisters, you know what I'm saying? Because our sisters are great, you know what I mean? And
there's many more women in Westchester. We don't hear them. I mean, I can think of like 5 or 6 minimum in my head who I know are never mentioned in anything. And that's just because either they don't fight for it or it's just, no one puts it at the front. But
a lot of these women, go ahead.
No, I'm saying my thing also is that not just do I want little brown girls to look and say, oh, well, they can do it, I can do it too. But I want also our other people who are not like us to look and say, and not think about, because at some point we can get to where we don't have to say first Black woman, right? Because if it's even across the board and we acknowledge those as they come, then we don't have to say that anymore, right? And for the little kids, young kids especially, and I can tell you, one thing I love about when I'm in places like London, is at least this part anyway. I see that the kids themselves, they don't distinguish who can or can't. So if I walk, let's say if I'm if there's two women standing in the front of a classroom, black and white, one's black and one's white, those kids are not going to assume that one is the teacher over the other based on color as they would in America, in my opinion. That's just my and that's why it's important for all kids to see that, and all boys and girls to see that, because then they will see that everybody can do anything. I mean, anybody can do. Anybody who puts in hard work can do it. Period.
That was another inspiration, and like I said, you said there's many that you could think of. There are probably over 100 women celebrated, 100 more, probably even more celebrated. But I just, they're not all on the cover, and I didn't want to just sit there and just rattle names for like the next 5 minutes. But what you said is another inspiration as we come to a point where they're trying to whitewash or just erase our history. I think it's important for us in the know to document our history. It's important that we all document our history, because our history is always rewritten. Our history is always whitewashed. Our history is always like things we've done, other people get credit for. And there are women in here
that now, and you see Florida and Iowa, somewhere they actually banned. Somewhere you can't teach Black history, even about civil rights, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But okay,
you can't talk about slavery. Yeah,
you can't talk about slavery, which I'm happy about that one, because guess what? I was sick of talking about when I was 7 years old. It was the most humiliating thing to be the only Black person in class and be hearing them talk about slavery. Because what do you think the kids would do? Well, you're my slave.
The problem is not teaching that slavery existed and it was an atrocity in this country. The problem is they act like that's the beginning of our history.
Well, also,
you understand what I'm saying? Like they teach like
that. You can't teach also about the Holocaust. You can't teach about what happened to the Italians when they got. You can't teach any of that.
So right. So
if you're going to
teach, in certain states, I mean, I hope I get on the banned book list, because then I know that I've accomplished something. I hope that my book gets to Florida and they ban it. You know what I'm saying? Because then just be like, you're doing something. But it's important for us to document our history.
But we always have.
Not always. Not the documentation of it. We lost. Yeah, that was the African way, and even during slavery. But at some point, we've lost that, and we don't tell our story, and we don't pass it down to others, and our youth don't know that these things exist, and that's our fault. We have to tell our story. We have to pass it down, and I hope I'm tapping into that long list of our ancestors that used to do that, and I'm documenting it in books where you can go to your local library, or if you're doing this term paper for Black History Month or Women's History Month or just period, and you can pull up in this. The other reason for this book was there was no one place. I had to go to over 250 sources to gather this information.
Wow.
The sad thing is, I have the lady who's the first Black reporter and anchor from News 12.
Yes.
I couldn't get the information. Yolanda something.
Yolanda something. Yeah, Femi's later. She's later.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the problem is, I called News 12 for this information, and they don't have it documented nowhere.
Of course not.
You understand what I'm saying? I called certain police departments, and they had to go through extensive research to find out who this person was that was the first Black woman, what years she became the first whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't even documented within those organizations.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, so that's why.
That's good and bad. It's good in a way that, she was a woman documented and she's the first detective, but bad in the way that when we go back later, now we can't find the information. It's like, wait a minute.
Well, and that's why I did the research, and that's why I wanted to get this book out as the beginning of documenting Black people in Westchester. There'll be a Men of Westchester book at some point, of course. There'll be a part 2 of this book. And then, I'm going to do other books like there were a lot of people in Westchester heavily involved in the civil rights movement. And
my mom was one of them too. Yep.
Right. I will be like documenting little because it's like doing a book of women was this, and I'm gonna have to like tailor it to like education or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So I could do more extensive. But this was just
and
a
you have
first.
Dr. Shabazz in there, of course, I'm sure.
Yeah, she was from Mount Vernon. I mean, she lived in Mount Vernon. Also,
amazing.
Betty Shabazz moved to Mount Vernon.
No, I know.
Yeah, after Malcolm passed.
Yeah.
And her neighbor was Nina Simone.
Yes, Nina Simone.
In the 60s on the same block. You know what I'm saying? So, and then I do, you know,
it was fire back then.
Right, and it was a big hub for civil rights and stuff like that. Martin Luther King.
I found out why. My mom told me the reason, because I kept saying, why do all these Black celebrities and people civil rights, like people you would never expect, are living in Mount Vernon in these areas? You know, this is when it was really, was really nice or whatever, and then back to nice again, whatever. But she had said because for her, she moved to Bedford because she knew they wouldn't go. There was a hit list of people to get rid of that were civil rights leaders that could organize people. There was a list, and it's a quiet list, but it's a list. And so when she left the South, she came to Bedford because she knew no one would look for a Black woman in Bedford. And then Mount Vernon, New Rochelle.
Yeah, Mount Vernon to this day is one of the only Black-run cities in the Eastern Seaboard. Like, you know, Philly is not Black-run. You know, Atlanta's not Black-run. Newark's not Black-run. I mean, like fully Black-run, where your mayor, your city council, your police commissioner, like it's Black-run.
Atlanta?
Not Black-run. See, Atlanta is in Georgia, and while Atlanta is a lot Black, outside of Atlanta is anything but. You know what I'm saying? So
you don't gotta tell me my mama had a house down there. I know.
Right. So it's not, you know, it's not all Black run. Like you might have a Black mayor.
Right.
But you don't have, you know, it's like literally all the decision makers and all the positions are Black. Right. You know, so you know, I just wanted to document this, and that's what we do with Black Westchester. Document our achievements, document our people, document all the things that our people deal with, you know, systemic racism,
right,
and discrimination and all these things. That's what we do at Black Westchester. So this was just an extension of that, and I'm really proud of this piece of work. And
you should be, as you should be.
It's the beginning of, God willing, it's the beginning of many more. There'll be many more. There'll be a Men of Westchester. Right? Yeah, there'll be a Men of Westchester book. Like I said, there'll be a book concentrating on the civil rights and era from Westchester and the surrounding areas. Like I'm in Mount Vernon, so I'm right near the Bronx. So I have the Bronx borough president. You know what I'm saying? It was the first Black woman, and the Bronx DA is the first Black woman. You know, that they're just a stone throw from me because I'm on the borderline of the Bronx. So, and I had already wrote articles on them, so I add them, even though they're not in 914, but they're right there. So I added them.
Wow.
And you know, like I said, there's a lot of women who've done, and they're not all politicians.
Right.
There's
exactly.
There's the first Black woman on the daytime soap. She's from Westchester.
With the one with the dimples.
Yeah, and again,
I don't. Teddy Huggy Bear, whatever, from the show with the two cars. What's the name of that show? Oh my gosh, I forgot. But he's from Katona. He was practically my neighbor. Huggy Bear, right. I call Teddy Bear, Huggy Bear, whatever they call his nickname. I don't know. But we have a lot of people here. It's amazing how many people. So what do you hope readers will take away from the stories and experiences you shared in the book?
Well, even those who know, I want them to walk away with like, wow, I didn't know that. I wanted to you know, further the pride in our people and our accomplishments. I also hope it inspires other young people to further do things like documenting our history and continuing that tradition. And you know, we need 4 or 5 books like this just on just women. You know what I'm saying? It's just there's just so many women have done so many different things. And we have a bunch of stories to tell, and like I said, God willing, you know, health wise, I'm here.
Yes, make sure you add 3 people in Westchester now that did 3 more things. Let me see if I got it right. Town Board, Namisha Schelling, I want to say, in Pound Ridge. and then she's the first.
I covered her. I endorsed her.
You did? Okay,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I had her on
When
my show once. Fabulous.
she was dealing with a lot of racism and all of
Oh
that
yeah,
stuff. And
yeah.
so I did the story. I did the interview with her before the election, so
Good.
she could share it and people could get to know who she was. And
Right.
again, she's someone who was elected after the book came out, so she would
Okay.
be in part two. On the
Good.
website for Women's History Month, I put I did a story. Black Westchester continues to celebrate Black women from Westchester, and it was about her and it was about Yadira, who both I spotlighted them. But they'll both be in the second part of the book or whatever, or
Yes.
a second edition of the book or whatever.
Yes.
So
What's important about that is because as we talk about politics and as we see, the 45s running again and all the different challenges we're facing and not really having great candidates. It's important to see from the smaller levels, because those are people that can rise up to the bigger levels and get to the Senate, get to wherever, to the next, and maybe even to the White House. So that's why it's important for me to see the smaller parts. Like one of our friends, what's her name? Let me see. Oh gosh, which town is she in? One of the small towns. Is it Bedford or is it Katona? Stephanie, she made also, I think she's on the, I don't know, say on the board. I never get the correct political.
Right, Stephanie.
Yes.
McCain.
Yes, McCain. Yes, Stephanie is another one, and someone else.
When I did in Katona, I did a library tour.
Oh.
And when I did the Katona Public Library, she came and I met her that day.
Well, you're right in my area. I'm 5 minutes away.
And it's funny because she's married to the family she's in. Yes. McCain, Eric McCain, which I think is her brother-in-law, was one of the first rappers to be on a record from Westchester. He was on a DST record.
Yeah. What a small world. Wow.
And then he went off to start that group In Touch. They did Too Hype and a couple other things. That's her brother-in-law.
Wow.
So her brother-in-law is in the hip hop book. We got our own thing, a look at hip hop from the 914. But yeah, I got to talk to her a lot that day. But nice. This book, like I said, I started with just documenting the first.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Those who were first.
Yeah.
And then I want to celebrate a lot of other women too. Yeah. And I do that on the website, blackwestchester.com. You can see it's the news with the Black point of view, and you can see a lot of our profiles and stuff. And in Black Westchester, we also wanted to celebrate the unsung heroes. There's every neighborhood has those people who've been putting in work for decades or for a long time. They don't do press, they don't get press, they don't get celebrated, and your city thrives because of them, of the things they do, and the young people that they inspire. And we try to celebrate as many of them as possible. So that's a lot of what we do.
Well, I'm glad you're doing that.
I just did it in a book form. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just a lot of people.
What do I? Go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead.
So this book is like the first of that kind of book where we're celebrating. I want to document the historical achievements and the greatness of African Americans in Westchester County and the surrounding area. There's just so much of Westchester. Nobody's done that. And I think I hope I encourage other people in their region. This book needs to be a book like that about Connecticut. There needs to be a book like that about Jersey. There needs to be a book like that in Philly and in different areas. You know what I'm saying? A book about just the Bronx or just Brooklyn women. You know what I'm saying?
Then we document and we keep the history going throughout. And even if it's just amongst ourselves, who cares? Because there's so many great women, especially Westchester. And I always keep saying, how can I make a tribute to my mom, because my forever mom, I call her, because she did a lot. And she was the first woman I saw sitting up in the pulpit and amongst all men, you know what I'm saying? And she did a lot. She's not in any representation. And then, it's like, okay, so why isn't she any, even when I went to one of the churches that she was assistant pastor at, they don't even have her up there. They don't even have her up there.
And that's another thing. Our Congress, our government, our courts, or for traditionally were just white men, not even white women, just all white men. And that's what the problem is when you see these races in Congress and stuff.
Hmm.
They fear the browning of America. So like in the last years of Congress and the last few years in Congress, you got a lot of black women, a lot of women, period. A lot of it's the first LGBT person, the first gay congressman, male, the first, you have all these, the first Native American, you have all of these, we start. So like I use an example, like Yonkers was one of the first, like I said, the court was all white men, the city court. And now they had the first Latina female judge. They
Yes.
had two the other year.
Yeah.
Shako and Karen Best became the two first in the same election, the two first black females. You know what I'm saying, on the court?
Your Honor Davison, remember her?
Right.
Plains. There's Your Honor.
Well, she's in here. Davidson's in here.
Yeah, she is good.
But,
And,
but I was just talking about like Yonkers. Okay. For the first time, the Yonkers court now looks more like the city of Yonkers, as opposed to just a bunch of white men. And that's just a representation of what's going on nationwide. You know what I'm saying? Like we're achieving, and I do want to get to a point where we no longer have to say the first, but right now, while they are the first, there's no, like I said, some of the women I wrote about, you can Google them and there's not a lot said about them online. Like I had to go through a lot of research, a lot of different places, the town historians, you know what I'm saying? The historical society, definitely articles, and like when you come to Westchester, when you come to the men, one of the first black men to run for mayor, he didn't win, was a black man and from Mount Vernon, and I got the articles. He was on the cover of Jet. He was on like all of these publications around the country. He was the first to run. He didn't win, but you know what I'm saying? He was the first to run, and that was, that's back then when they said first black Negro. That's when they called us Negroes back then. So there's so much of that, and we document that daily on Black Westchester. So I wanted to put it in a book so I can go to libraries and hopefully just document our history. I think it's important. And let me just say, I talked to my friend Joyce Cole from I think Ossining. She's the first black historian of Ossining. One of the things when I talked about her, this is what I say for everybody. Everybody's family has history of some sort. What happens is we no longer tell and document the history of our families. So a lot of our older relatives have all of this stuff in their attic or in boxes and stuff, and then they pass, and it never gets. So for our younger people, for the people my age, start getting with the older people in your family. Start documenting your history.
Documenting for mine, and some other people have asked me to help them do that make it digital, so that they have something.
Right. So then there's a record, and there's a record you can pass down to your kids. But what happens is we have to stop letting our elders die with all of this knowledge that didn't get passed down. And then we don't know, and our kids don't know, and on and on and on. So forget about everybody else knowing what went on in your family, the greatness of your family. Your family doesn't even know. And when you have that, as a sense of pride, knowing your grandmother did this, and your grandfather, your great-grandfather did this. Like, it just pride. So that's things that every person watching your show can do for their family. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's very important. And hopefully I inspire stuff like that. Like, So.
It's actually a good business to start, because I love doing stuff like that, getting it together, all the pieces. My mom, I still have her voice when she called me on the answer machine, telling me, hey, Tanya, your mom, just call and say I love you. I kept that. So I put that in with it so that the future, whatever great grandkids could play that recording and say, oh, that's what she sounded like. Wow, she had such a sweet voice. You know what I'm saying? So that's even that.
I have a similar story. My mother died shortly after July 11th, 2014. She was part of a women's group called Zonta, Zonta. And they had a radio show on WVOX. And my mother was a guest on the show. My mother She worked for Westchester Residential Opportunities and used to show people how to save their house when it's in foreclosure or whatever. So she's giving all this advice, and she's just in a rare form, how my mom is, and doing what she loved to do best. And after my mother passed, one of the members was in touch with my sister and sent her the recording from the interview. So for the first 4 or 5 years, I held it to myself. And then I let other people who are into that, the whole thing with mortgages and foreclosures, and they say, yo, this is still vital information that can help somebody today.
Yes.
So for Mother's Day or one of my mother's birthdays or something, I celebrated that. I tell the story, and then I shared the video, the audio of it for the world to hear. Excuse me. So hopefully my mother can continue her voice, continue helping somebody in that situation. I have a lot of friends, even in Atlanta, who were about to face foreclosure. I put them on the phone with my mom's, and she was able to walk them through the steps. And some of them still have their houses because of my mom,
Wow.
15 years ago or something. So having that audio of her every now and then, I could just hear her voice.
Yes,
and
really
it's
helped.
the most beautiful thing. My mother's name was Patricia Henderson. I don't know if anybody in Westchester know her, but I wanted to celebrate her, so she's the first woman I celebrate in this book.
Well, how do you? That's amazing. That is amazing, and that's good. Contribute to your mom. I mean, that's really what it's about at the end of the day, right? It's preserving and sharing in all formats. So this book is very prevalent. How do you see the impact of your book on the larger conversation surrounding diversity and inclusion? Because that's important.
Well, I think one important thing is you doing this interview, bringing more attention to the book. Because there are other books that document stuff that nobody knows exist.
Right.
They say if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, does it? So I can have the greatest book and have the most up, but if it's sitting on the shelf in the library and nobody's going to look for it, or nobody knows that it exists, or it's on Amazon and nobody knows to buy it, the information doesn't get out there. I also want to say this book is a great book to buy as a gift for your young sisters, your daughters, your nieces, as a graduation gift, as a birthday gift, as a stocking stuffer. This book is a great gift, and not just your young girls, your young boys. You know what I'm saying? Specifically your young girls, because again, seeing the greatness that they come from, people that look like them in their area that have accomplished all these great things. But your young boys. So for any school age child or college child, this is a great gift. It's a great gift to buy your mom on Mother's Day. You know what I'm saying? For Mother's Day or for whatever. So it makes a great gift on that level. You can buy it on Amazon. It's available on Amazon. Anybody who wants to actually get a autographed copy from me, if you see my name at Mr. AJ Woodson, if you put at Gmail, Mr. AJ Woodson at gmail.com and email me, you can hit me. You can pay me through Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. Give me your mailing address, add $5 for postage, and I will autograph it. Because most of the books I sell, even those on Amazon, I sell personally. I'm going to the post office.
That's the way to do it.
Every other day with boxes. I mean, you make more money because Amazon takes half the money.
Of course.
Let's just put it that way. Real talk.
Always
Amazon,
better.
Yeah, Amazon takes half the money. So I try to do as many speaking engagements and stuff like that. And like I said, when people hit me, they can get it directly. And I autograph it for them, and I will mail it to them. So y'all can all do that.
At Mr. AJ Wilson, what?
Mr. AJ Woodson at gmail.com. And at Mr. AJ Woodson is my social media handle on everything. So you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, IG. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, without the at, just Mr. AJ Woodson. Not without the first at. It's my email address. Yeah.
What am I doing here? I'm famous.
Yeah, but Mr. AJ Woodson at Mr. AJ Woodson is my social media handle. And just put it out there. This is a labor of love. So anybody want to, that's also my Cash App too. If you want to, just make a donation to keep a brother going, for the work that I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
You can
right.
also Mr. AJ Woodson. So
That's
I
right.
just
And
want to
Huh? You do podcasts as well. When is that? Your show?
So Black Westchester celebrate coming up on our 10-year anniversary for the website. We also do what used to be a online radio show, People Before Politics Radio. We used to actually do it in the studio in Yonkers till COVID. It closed down. Now we do it on a format like this, streaming, which you can watch on the Black Westchester LinkedIn page or YouTube page. It's called People Before Politics. It's on Sunday, 6 to 8. And today we will be tackling one of the main topics. We'll be dealing with the new anti-Semitic awareness act that they just tried to pass. It passed through the House. It passed through the House, but not just the act. The act wants to further define the word anti-Semitic. For instance, one of the things, if the bill passed, you won't be able to talk about is the Jewish involvement in Jesus' death. Like that will, and that's
really?
which is in the Bible. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just saying that's crazy. Well, I mean,
so in sense, it would make preachers teaching from the Bible anti-Semitic and illegal. I don't think that.
I can't wait to see how that turns out.
So I mean,
you get the Trump land. Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Right. So it'd be like they're trying to add it to the civil rights the Civil Rights Act of '64 that was passed for Black people. They're trying to add it.
But why is anybody adding thing to our thing? I don't understand that. Doesn't make sense.
And that's what I said. It could be a separate act. Why add it to ours?
Why are you adding it to ours? We already have enough problems. We can't get. Right. We still can't stop getting shot. Like
right.
That's
So I want to I get 5 days off from work in May. I will let you know and meet up again. Thank you, Joe. Joe came out and met me for my other book. You interviewed me for my book.
Yes, Joe's the real deal. Then Grandma Norma said, "Okay, Norma, I got you, Emma. All right."
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
So no, I don't think it'll pass either.
Yeah.
Even some Republicans
you don't think
are
it'll pass? You better be surprised.
Well, it passed the House. It passed the House.
Sure
it has to go through the Senate.
First things are strong.
Wait, when it has to go through the Senate and then it has to be signed by the president. Okay. I think, especially running for president, it would go really bad for Biden if he signs this thing.
No, that's the only way he might.
No.
But if he does,
there are Republicans who are MAGA Republicans, but they are also that are against this. Like you even have MAGA. So it passed.
Okay, so it depends on. It's going to really depend.
Right, it wasn't just Republicans. There were some Democrats that voted for it too. So
voted for it.
Voted for it. Yes, it passed the House.
Everybody's going to vote for who's about that purse string. Watch.
Well, you have. I want to get off the topic. Everybody can watch my show to talk about it. But you have Jewish groups that are spending a lot of money and supporting a lot of candidates, and the candidates. Yep. When you spend a lot of money on a candidate, you're beholden to that organization.
Kennedy's one of them, but we won't go there.
But tune in today, 6:00, and you'll hear us talk about that and several other issues. As Black Westchester presents the People Before Politics radio show. You can watch it on the Black Westchester YouTube channel and LinkedIn page, and and you can watch it on my personal Facebook page too. So watch that at 6:00. We're going to definitely do that. But getting back to this, because I think our Black women need to have their own conversation. Right? I don't want to divert.
Absolutely. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go divert, but I mean, you picked the topic that's like we can't just let it go. Like
No. I know.
And we will chime in and listen in for sure.
Shout out to my partner Damon K. Jones. He's the one that came up with the idea for Black Westchester, and I kind of put a pin to his movement. He actually wrote an article that's on Black Westchester right now that you can read. Go to blackwestchester.com. You'll see the article. Okay. And he actually picked the topic for today's show. So we will definitely be getting in that.
I better watch that 6:00 because that's going to be hot like fire.
Yeah, so
That's
we can
on
talk
the
about a
top.
few other issues, and we're going to definitely talk about that today.
Yeah.
And this is the
Yeah.
kind of thing we address.
Yeah.
We're the show that give you real talk for the community.
Yes. I
Um,
noticed
eh,
that. I
yeah,
noticed that.
so
Y'all don't hold no bar.
no, 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 and we,
Love it.
we need to be uncomfortable
Yes.
we need to be comfortable having the uncomfortable conversations. Right
Absolutely. I'm
now,
all for it. I'm here.
I want to say this lastly about that.
Mhm.
Right now, everyone is oversensitized.
Yes.
Everything you say about a Jewish person is not anti-Semitic. Some things are true.
Right.
Everything you say about a black person is not racism. Some
Right.
things are true.
Right.
But we just want to run, racist, anti-Semitic, or anti Islamophobia. So we are not having those uncomfortable conversations no more. Even
That's
doing this
because we're
book,
being shut down when
even
we
do
have
right, even the reason, and going back to the book, a
them.
lot of these women dared to be different, dared to go against the mold. They dared to do what no one else had done before, and a lot of them have had the uncomfortable conversations, and
Yeah.
their capacity of elected official leaders, educators and stuff, and they need to be celebrated because we need, like, if we don't talk about each other's differences, like when we need to, when we're different groups, first off, we need to come together in our commonalities. If we
Yes.
start off there, we all
Mm-hmm.
have some stuff we
Yeah.
all believe in. If we start off there, then
Yeah.
we can go into the other stuff. The second thing
Absolutely.
I want to say about that is we come into spaces because we all want to be heard, but we
Yes.
don't come into them spaces to hear.
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
anytime I do these town halls or the shows, I tell my audience, if you didn't come here to hear in
Mhm.
addition to be heard, then
Right.
you wasted your time because that's what this is for. So
Exactly.
we've had the uncomfortable conversations on racism in Greenberg,
Right.
honest conversation on racism, and that's what we had a real diverse, some Jewish people, some black people, some white
Nice.
people, and we talked
Nice.
about racism in that town, and
Mm-hmm.
that was one of my things. I want everybody to get a chance to be heard and be heard with respect, and
Right.
be respectful even in your disagreeing, but
Exactly.
also come to hear what other people want to be heard. You know what I'm saying? So, a lot of the women in my book, again, they dared to be different. They dared to do what wasn't done before. And a
Right.
lot of them have dared to have these uncomfortable conversations. As we're talking about Ruby D, fighting for black or white
Right.
officers and white planes to be justice brought down for the killing of Chen. That's an uncomfortable conversation to a lot
Very.
of people in law enforcement and stuff. But she,
Yes.
at her late age, just years before she died, she fought for that. And I
Mhm.
celebrate that in this book. And there's a lot of strong women. And everybody in this, several of the women, most of the women in this book, there could have been a book on just them because
I
they're
know.
that dynamic.
Mm.
I
Mm.
tried to culminate as many of them as possible and
Mm.
celebrate as many of them as possible in
Mm.
this book. So, sometimes there might be, 2-3 pages on a few, there might be just a paragraph on a few, and in the timeline, it might be just celebrated the thing they did, and that's just a couple of lines, so,
Right.
we got, I celebrate our R&B singer. Vanessa Williams is from
Yes, I know.
Chappaqua.
Yes, but that's what it is. Yeah.
Stephanie Mills lived in Mount
Yeah.
Vernon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I celebrate all of them. And
Actually, yeah, and actually, Vanessa Williams is in the modeling agency that we were in Mount Kisco.
okay.
So we technically were the first black models in Mount Kisco area. Technically, there
And
was a
and
lot.
and and I also want to celebrate you for everybody who watches you.
Thank
What
you.
you do is very important,
Thank you.
and I appreciate you bringing me to your platform to
Of course.
share, for me to share.
Of
But
course.
I want all your supporters, because I said about my support, all your supporters to, these things we do are a labor of love. And if
Mm-hmm.
you want her to continue to do it, make sure you support her. When she puts her Cash App or whatever up, make sure you
Thank you.
support that. If
Thank you
she's
for
selling,
thank you.
if she's selling any merch or something, make sure you buy that. Make sure that
Thank
you watch her show. You
you.
click like on the videos. You subscribe on YouTube, so the
Share.
algorithms will continue to to further her message through. And that's how you support. And who said
I don't
it?
do gossip, so I don't get as many people, but I don't. I tell
because
people care about
because people want the TMZ stuff, but
yes,
these
they do. Well,
conversations are
I can bring it, but I don't want to bring that. I feel like we have enough of that. It's over filtration of that. You can go get it from anywhere right now. I mean,
that's why we did Black Westchester.
Yeah,
that's why we did Black Westchester. I've been a writer since '93 for every music publication: Village Voice, The Source, Vibe, Upscale, and all that. This is the first This is the first non-music or non-entertainment venture that I've ever been in, because I mean, I could have did a music publication, a glossy publication. It could sit on the stands with Ebony and Essence. I could be talking about all the ratchetness and America's this housewife and that housewife and what rappers beefing with the other rapper and all that. And I would never be having a problem with advertising. I would have money flowing in. My ratings would be through the roof. But we decided that we needed what we didn't have, especially in Westchester, was a Black news magazine. You have Time, Life, Newsweek, and all these, and even in publications in Westchester, but they don't always talk from our narrative, from our lens. Nope. And that's why we do what we do, and we keep it free. We keep it free because some of the information doesn't trickle down to our community, to the poorest of our community that needs the information the most. But the problem is, it's a labor of love. So I say that about you because I depend on advertising and donations to keep us going. There's a song, I forgot who to sing it, but there's a line, one day, and it might not be long, you're gonna look for me and I'll be gone. And you'll be like, oh, what happened to Black Westchester? Or what happened to On the Town with Tanya? You know what happened? We didn't support it. And we need to support our brothers and sisters who are doing something. We need to support it. And we need to support it with not just our words, but with our wallets. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm telling anybody who watches your show to do that for you. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And I do have some. I have Emma and them. I have Grandma Yvonne. I have quite a few people that try to. Oh wait, they're always, if they're not here, they must really be in church. Like that's it. But I have other people. Joe, is wonderful, which I'm going to play promo at the end. I have a lot of people. I have a few people. I always say where there's a few, there's many. I'm not one of the people that. I probably should be involved in invested in numbers, but I just can never get involved in them because to me, if your heart is not in it, I don't care if 1 million people watching. If 1 million people ain't really interested and that they don't go back and tell the next person to inspire them and motivate them, what was the point?
I shared this video on my page, and I just got a couple of text messages. One person said they were going to come pick up a couple of copies of the hip hop book next week. Yes. And two people said they need to get a copy of the woman's book. So I thank you. Even in my audience, people are, this is helping people remember the books are out there and bringing more attention to it. And that's what it is. We got to go. Plus, we got to support each other's format. Like you had me on once for a book, and then 6 months later, you had me on again. So I'm like,
you're welcome here anytime. You know that. I believe when like you said, we have to cross promote each other because. We're not CBS, NBC, and don't choose to be. Because like you said, I could have been in a bigger arena. I chose not to be. And people think I'm crazy, but I like being comfortable and talking about what I want to talk about, not what you tell me I have to talk about. There's a difference. You know what I'm saying?
I say the same thing. I could have wrote, so I've been in the music business since 87, once as an artist, and then from that point as a writer.
Yes.
Do you know the stories that I know? That if it was all about money for me, just at any cost, I could write a tell-all book that would talk about the dirt of a whole lot of artists and actresses and sports figures that that I took to the grave with me because those are stories that I felt didn't need to be told about our people. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, and there's some of this stuff is not stuff that's even out. So by me putting it out there, it would. But I would be on every show.
Exactly.
Interview.
I would be. Sometimes you choose not to just engage in that arena. And I mean, I used to model. I worked for Studio 54, Stephen Rubel at the tail end of Studio 54 when he bought Palladium. I've done a lot of things that I could write that book too. but that's not what I want to do. And that's not, my spirit's not of that. I'm not a
Right.
beast. Let me see what I can say about AJ. I don't,
Right.
I don't.
So secondly, before I forget, I also want to uplift my sister, Nicole Woodson
Oh
Burbick.
yeah,
She's definitely,
Nicole.
she's my younger sister
Okay.
by 4 or 5 years, but she's been a great influence in my
Mm.
life and the person you see before you. So I definitely want to give her a shout out. And again,
We shout
my
her out.
my
You're
daughter, my daughter Paula Sherelle Woodson, who did my book
book cover.
covers, and she's doing great work. And shout out to her. She just bought her first house.
Oh,
She just
really?
moved in Georgia. Yeah, she was on the phone with me yesterday and gave me like a video tour of the whole house, and I'm very proud of her. So I want to uplift her, and of course my mother is Patricia Henderson. For anybody in Westchester that knows her, she's from Mount Vernon, class of '64, Mount Vernon High School. So anybody who knows that's her age and knows she was definitely the inspiration for this book, because all my life she said, give me my flowers while I'm alive to smell them. And that is the theme of this book,
Well,
giving women their flowers. And at one of my presentations at the Mount Vernon Library, they had an affiliation with a florist. So several of the women in the book came to my author talk, and I brought them up one at a time and physically gave them their flowers. You know what I'm saying? Like a flower, you know what I'm saying? Like some roses. I physically gave them roses, because I want to celebrate. We have to celebrate each other.
That's it.
One of the biggest things that's wrong with our community is we allow them to divide us.
Yes.
Women sometimes don't think they need men. Men don't know how to treat women. We don't support each other. And that is our strength in celebrating each other. And we need to not hate. Like they say in church, if God is blessing my neighbor, that means he's in my neighborhood. So maybe I might not be getting a blessing right now, you know what I'm saying? But he's in my neighborhood. Like, I need to celebrate my neighbor. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we need to do more of that as a people.
Yes.
Black Lives Matter.
We're learning.
The phrase Black Lives Matter, not the organization, but the phrase Black Lives Matter was more about us than it was about other people, because Black lives can't matter to nobody else until they fully matter to us.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I know it has nothing to do with the book, but I'm just sorry. You got me.
No, that's a great point, and it's a great one to end on too, because you can't expect other people to do something for yourself if you ain't doing it.
Right.
That's why I don't even rely on celebrities to be. Why aren't they fixing this? Why aren't they fixing that? Are you doing it?
Everybody has a part to play, and hopefully with the website and the radio show and now the books, I'm beginning to play my part. And furthering my community, uplifting my community, holding the leaders of the community, especially the ones that look like us, feet to the fire. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we grow. You know what I'm saying? So,
absolutely.
And I hope, to all the women in this book, man, I'm really proud of this book. I wrote a lot of stuff about a lot of things, and I'm proud of this book for being able to do something that hasn't been done, and put them all in one book, so you can go to one place and read about all these women, and then hopefully it'll make you want to know more about other women and men who are doing great things.
Right. Oh, wow. Well, this is amazing. I think I'm so happy that you're here. And then my last question for you, and then we're going to end with a promo from one of our viewers, Joe. We really appreciate you for all the support you've been showing us. And I appreciate you, Emma and Grandma. I see you out there as well. But I have one last question for you. Are there any future projects that you're or initiatives that you are working on that continue to uplift and celebrate Black women in the community? And we got where we can buy the book part. So, yeah.
Well, everything I do with Black Westchester is celebrating our Blackness unapologetically, to document our people, you know what I'm saying, our achievements. And I'm picking my region. I live in Westchester County, so I'm documenting the people of Westchester who've done all these things. Like I said, there will be a second version of this book, a part 2. There will be a Men of Westchester book. And then I will be documenting like certain areas like Black educators and Black civil rights leaders and, stuff like that, Black people in entertainment and stuff like that, So I will be celebrating all of our people, especially our sisters and our brothers. And I just, anybody who's watching this and will watch this, please go out and get this book. Please, and if you already have a copy yourself, get it as a gift to somebody. You like your mother, your aunt, your sister, your niece, your daughter, your son, get a copy of this. You can do it online, and you can also contact me and get an autographed copy.
Yes, and you can reach out to me anytime, guys, where I have AJ's information if you need it. So Mr. AJ Woodson, Black Westchester Magazine, we thank you so much for taking the time to come. You're welcome here anytime, of course, as you know. And I know you got a show to do, so you guys check him out at 6. Someone made a comment here. Jeff, who's that? Yes. Okay, Joe.
Yes,
thank you. Grandkids. Okay. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you guys so much for taking the time. Make sure you share the video if you can. And again, thank you. And so I'm going to show you a promo, and then we're going to leave and hang out with me for a minute. AJ, don't go anywhere. 1 second. Let me see if I can get it up here. Boom.
Hi, you are watching On the Town with Tanya. And my name is Joe Petrofaso from Harrison, New York.